Are you saying you couldn't take it on the chin? You know, you can't, boom, you can't take that hit? This is News on a Tuesday. Today we've got a few interesting topics, I guess, to say the least. One of which is definitely not a pleasant one for some of you. Probably already have a clue of what I'm talking about, but we'll go ahead and take a deeper dive into it. But first, let's talk about Lego Masters. Now, I was privy enough to have a discussion with the judges, Amy and Jamie, early this morning, and got a roundtable session and had an opportunity to ask some questions, as well as a few others that were joining me as well. And we'll have that content here in the next few days, the interview with them, which is, I think it's probably about 40 minutes long after, I do some editing to it, but some good stuff, some interesting information from the judges, and some really interesting questions as well. So most definitely be on the lookout for that. But this has to do with the season premiere. Now, if you weren't familiar with usually the time frame of when Lego Masters came out in the past, it was usually a summer thing, like beginning of summer kind of a show. That's when it really made its mark, and early fall it would end up running out of episodes and be over. Well, it got pushed back, and which kind of sucks. It was originally supposed to be May 31st. Like, we were already supposed to be in the thick of things. And Fox said, we're going to push it back. We're getting it pushed back until Wednesday, September 21st, which is not a big deal. It's not horrible. It'll wrap up before the Christmas holiday season, which is good because that tends to be a chaotic time of year for a lot of people. And hopefully we'll have an opportunity to do interviews with the cast members that are eliminated each week during challenges. So Lego Masters Season 3 is coming. And you guys will get to hear with kind of what the judges had mentioned in one of the questions that I had asked. But I find it interesting because Season 1, it's a new thing. It's never really been done. Season 2, contestants already kind of have an idea of what to expect. Now you got to be ready to roll. Season 3, like, there's some heavy hitters that are in there. Brick and Nick is one of them that is in there. And I know it was originally you had to be in the United States. That was opened up to some Canadian talent, which is a big deal because he's a very talented builder. Done numerous mocks, can't even count. And then, ideas projects and stuff like that as well. So kudos to him and his partner. Now, there's a number of others in there as well. My thing with that is where are you pulling this talent from? Because when they put the all call out there, it pretty much just becomes whoever they can get on at some point. Because like I've said in the past, a lot of Lego builders don't want to be on TV. They don't want to be in the limelight. So then you run into that issue where you may have exquisitely, unbelievably talented builders, but they don't want to showcase that in a public sphere, especially not with filming and stuff like that. And having talked to some people that have already done it, and the burdens going in with the filming and stuff like that, there's a lot to it. And then learning a detail today that those people are actually all on camera the entire time while they're building. And even when the judges aren't there, they can actually see them when they aren't there in person themselves, which is so wild and crazy. I can't even imagine. But with that in mind, Season 3 is coming. Get some interesting things. I do expect a lot from this season. It's not something brand new. You're going to have to keep your audience entertained. And I honestly expect there to be very big, dramatic things happening in the season, which is great because that's what you need. If you're making a show and it's something like this, where it's not like a drama, it's not a comedy or whatever, It's a game show. You've really got to grab people and keep them entertained. And I've been a critic in the past where, you could condense the show and do it in 30 minutes because a lot of the stuff is kind of, it's typical Fox program, typical the way Fox does things as far as their programming and putting out these kind of shows and their editing and things like that. It's just kind of, whatever. So anyway, September 21st, that's when it's coming for you, for your entertainment. So now let's move on to something that is probably not going to make you happy. And that is, we missed this last week because the announcement came after the show, but Lego is announcing, or has announced at this point in time, there's a price increase coming in August, which, everything is going up. Gas, food costs, everything is going up, and it's absolutely insane. It's got to stop at some point, but that's not what we're here to talk about. The rest, we're here to talk about specifically Lego. Their prices are going up, so our prices are going up. Now, the issue comes from their raw material, right? Comes from the plastic and all the other kind of things that they do. Their operating costs, right? Fuel goes up, that, costs have to go up. Everything is a trickle effect. Now, this is not going to be every single set. In their official statement about it, there are over 600 products currently in their lineup that you could buy today. And anywhere from, I believe it was 140 to 150 of those products are going to see increases. Now, some of them are going to be very small, like $1. Some of them may be a little bit larger. Now, we don't have a full list of what is changing yet. As soon as I know that, as soon as we are given that information, I will share it with you, because that is going to determine a lot of where you spend your money, how you spend your money. And I'll bring up another point about where you spend your money a little bit later, but that is where things are headed. Those 100, 150-ish sets, that's where you're going to see that price bump. And it's going to affect, I think, a lot of people in a lot of different ways. Like I said, things are already so expensive as it is. Now you have to kind of determine, well, is the gas worth the money to go get Lego from the Lego store, or you buy it online? And is it really worth me getting it if I have to worry about putting more fuel into my tank? The cost is just kind of wild, really, to think that this is where things go. Now, I am hopeful that when things kind of settle back down, prices should come back down. That's what I want to see. If you're raising, I'm just pulling something out of my head that I just recently worked on. So the Ferrari, it's $400 set. If you increase that by, let's say, $10, after things and costs start going down, are you going to pull it back down? Because if you're not, I think you're kind of being disingenuous to your consumer base, where, hey, we need to pay more for these costs that we're incurring as far as, price of raw materials, like they said. Well, when that stuff drops, because it ultimately will. It's like the lumber issue a year ago, where lumber's on shortage and it was incredibly high. That came down. So if your raw materials and stuff and your costs are coming back down, you should trickle that back down to the consumer, especially those that have stood by you through thick and thin, because your consumer base has, honestly. Now, they did go on to mention that putting consumers first is at the heart of what we do as a company, and for some time we have absorbed these costs to keep pricing stable. However, as these costs have continued to rapidly rise, we have taken the decision to increase the price on some of our sets. Some, just remember, some. This increase will come into effect in August and in September, which I had already mentioned. They further went on to explain that the increase will differ depending on the set, and prices will change on around a quarter of the portfolio, which I had mentioned, around 150 sets. On some sets, we will not alter the price at all. On others, there will be a single-digit increase. And on larger, more complex sets, the percentage increase will be higher. Like I said, maybe stuff like the Ferrari, things like that. I can expect that to be much larger. I don't know what percentage it's going to change, but more than likely it will. They finalized it by saying we will continue to work to ensure our products offer great value and fully recognize how important this is to our fans and everyone who love our products. Now, with that said, that's all great. Somebody in the PR department put that out. That is what they are trained to do. Got to keep the image there. And I'm not saying their image is bad. Here's where I have some issue. Your raw materials are going up. Fine, I get that. Operating costs are going up. Fine. What about the massive profit that you made during the pandemic, post-pandemic? Lego made, I can't remember what their earnings were for last year. Their earnings were absolutely incredible. It was unbelievable how much money they had made. So I know how business works. I know how companies work. I know all that kind of stuff. But are you saying you couldn't take it on the chin? You can't, boom, you can't take that hit. Now, obviously, you don't want to lose money as a company. You have investors, you have stockholders, you have all that kind of stuff. I get it. But somewhere, you've got to be thinking along the lines of, the optics of this might not look great, especially when you are building let's say a $50 city set that only has like 200 pieces, something like that, right? We've all been there. We all kind of walk down the aisle and you see it and you're like, why is this expensive? Look how tiny it is. Well, a lot of plastic, usually. The more complex things are that don't use as much plastic, it usually tends to be a little bit cheaper. Now, you could take let's say you have 250 pieces, exactly 2 different sets, and neither of them are IP sets, intellectual property, for those of you that don't know what IP means. And one of them is more like on a city side, and one is like Speed Champions. You've got, you've got big chunky things usually with the city stuff. That's going to cost a lot more. Or the 4+ stuff, right? That's going to cost more because there's more plastic. So that's where the justification comes from for those things being more expensive. My point is, when you already have some things that are really questionably overpriced, and now you're going to add on to some others that may or may not have been overpriced, and you're adding this extra on $1, 10%, whatever it might be, and you just had all this money made, you can have a lot of pissed off people. There's already been people that are saying, well, I guess I'm not buying Lego for a while, or maybe not as much. Now, we'll be curious to see what this does as far as profits from here on out. The second half of the year, I would love to see, A, what their projections are, they're expecting for it, and B, what they will finally ultimately end the year with. We won't know those numbers until probably February, early February, late January maybe. So I'm very curious to see where that goes and how it goes, how it works out, really. Now, one of the other things I said I wanted to come back to, as far as where you buy. Lego incentivizes you to buy through them to get gift with purchase stuff. Sometimes that's the price cap on that is way too high. Sometimes they incentivize you with VIP stuff. By the way, VIP accounts cost nothing. But if you look at it, it's really only a 5%, return on your money. There's credit cards that do more than that. And I'm not saying you need to do a ton, but the question becomes, how much do you really do for the consumer and stuff like that? Because now you look at some places where you can buy Lego. So there are a number of places you can buy Lego, right? Just about anywhere. Here in the United States, Walmart, Target, any other store for the most part. Amazon is a huge retailer. And then you get into like the Zavis of the world and I want one of those. There are places you can get things, and sometimes you can get them much cheaper, which is fine. The issue is you have to balance, well, if it's $39.99 at Amazon and $39.99 at Lego.com, I'm getting points, but maybe it's double VIP points, or maybe it's, I don't know, something else. There's a really good promotion going on. So you have to balance that. You have to weigh that. You have to determine, is it worth it? Is it not? And in my opinion, sometimes it isn't worth going through Lego just because you can get it cheaper. I mean, we're all people that don't want to overpay for things. So sometimes you make that choice and you say, you know what, I'm going to forgo the 5% in VIP points that I get just so that I can save, I don't know, $5, which in the grand scheme of things, if it's a $40 set, I'm taking the $5 instead of the 5% in points because I'm not going to get that many. It's really not going to do anything for me. So with that, you know, in your mind, that's where the frugal nature starts to come in, especially in these times. And you say, well, let's look. Some places like, Amazon especially, Walmart and Target are notorious for this, especially Walmart. Sometimes they set a brand new release and it will come out and it'll be a few bucks cheaper already than on Lego's website, which is not a knock at Lego so much as they've got their prices set across the board. Rarely discount things. And by the time they do put things on a deeper discount, maybe things that didn't sell so well at the end of their lifespan or whatever, it's still only like 20%. Well, my God, most days you can go into Target or Walmart and you already have a 20% discount there. Now, here's another thing that I want to introduce you to. And I want to give this to you because I think it's kind of interesting. If you've ever, some of you use the website Honey or whatever, you know, you find deals and stuff like that, coupon codes, whatever. On Amazon, this runs, I think it only runs with Amazon, but it's called Camel, like the animal. Camel. And what you can do is you can type in a product, Lego in this case, and you can see how much it's selling for, how much it sold for over the last year, 2 years, whatever. And you can see the price fluctuation. When did it dip? When was it at the lowest? When was it at the highest? And you can kind of plan accordingly to that. If it's something brand new and you're like, I got to have it day one, well, you might not be getting any kind of discount. You might not. So you have to kind of weigh that. And the other weight of things is when something like Optimus Prime came out. Okay. Optimus Prime came out last week. June 1st was the drop dead date for it. Here it comes, everybody. To be able to get that, you weren't able to get that at Amazon right away. Those big sets you're not able to get on Amazon right away or in the stores right away. Sometimes you are. In this case, you were not. So you have to determine, is it worth the money to buy it now or not? Do I wait and hope there's a discount down the road? Because usually stuff like that, you're not going to really see a discount unless you get lucky and you find something like sometimes Target will run a $50, you spend $50 on toy. Usually, sometimes it's either toy or they'll specify and say Lego. So if they say $50 off on Lego, or you spend $50, you get, I think it's $5 back or something like that, $10 off. Then you could do something like that. But that kind of big set usually isn't something that is coming out that often. So into stores. Now they've gotten better. They've really gotten a lot better. But it's one of those things you really have to stop and look and say, well, is it worth doing this or is it not worth doing? Because in my mind, I'm saying it's absolutely worth doing it. If I'm getting money back, yes, that outweighs the chance of getting 5% off and, Optimus Prime, for instance. If you don't buy it right away, it's sold out. It's out of stock. It's on back order. Back order is good because at least it's coming. Out of stock, you have no idea. And it won't let you order it ahead of time. But if you're lucky enough and you can find something in a store somewhere, or you can find it on a third-party website, then you're done. It's over. You did it. You maybe even save some money. So it's a really tricky situation for consumers. It's a really tricky situation for Lego. I side more with the consumer. I'm a consumer. I consume a lot of different things. So when prices increase, I immediately get tensed up and I'm like, nope, you're not pulling any more pennies out of me. My wife and I just had the conversation this morning about our insurance going up for vehicles. I'm like, all right, it's time to switch, go somewhere else cheaper. Why? Because I want to save money. I don't want to overpay for something. Nobody does. So you have to be frugal you have to be mindful. And at the same time, you always have to stop and think about, it is a company. They're trying to do their thing. They're trying to make the most money that they can. And I get it. But it just stinks sometimes. It really, in the worst way. So not to take it down, to this sad level or anything like that. But let's talk about the 90 years of play, and then let's talk about LegoCon. So the 90 years of play initiative is kind of interesting to me. But what you're getting, you actually have an opportunity here to get one of these GWPs. The Forest Hideout, I think, is going to sell out like crazy. The Animal Free builds, which are Duplo, maybe, probably not. But to me, the Forest Hideout, which looks incredible, you have some beautiful minifigs that are in here. You have a lot of neat, nostalgic building that is in here. The only issue is the price cap. By the way, this goes June 15th to June 22nd. If you spend 150 US or 150 euro or probably 150 pounds, I'm assuming it's probably going to be somewhere around there, you get an opportunity to get this. You will be handed this thing. Now, none of us know for certain, other than Lego and probably promo bricks, none of us know for certain whether there is a castle or something like that coming. The speculation has been out there for over a year now. We're going to be getting a castle. Is it wishful thinking? Is it speculation? Is somebody got their ear to the ground? They heard the rumblings coming? I don't know. But Lego doesn't do things unintentionally. And if you look at this, you've got to be thinking in the back of your head, deductive reasoning here, some critical thinking. This has got to be coming. We've got to be getting a castle, right? Why would you do this and not that? That wouldn't make any sense. And I'm hopeful. I am absolutely hopeful. It's what, June or first week of June? We still have a lot of months left in the year. There's potential. Summer, they usually drop big stuff in the summer. Sometimes it's, I don't know, what else? We got the Haunted House in the summer. We got, I think, the big Harry Potter set. What was it? With all the 4 buildings. Oh my goodness, I can't remember. We got the Hogwarts icons over the summer. Big things have come over the summer in the past. So there's hope. There's absolutely hope. But anyway, that's pretty cool. LegoCon is coming June 18th, and I will be in Chicago at Brick World. If you guys are in Chicago, anybody that is listening, make sure you come say hello to me. Unless I'm in an interview, don't do that because that's mean. You can wave to me or something, kick me under the table, something. But with that in mind, I'll be in Chicago at that time. And the plan is to do a event with April B, where she's going to be live streaming next to me to do the event. And what we're going to basically commentate on the event and give you our opinions, our thoughts. I'll be using my platform. She'll be using her platform. But the interesting thing will be is, now you don't get to see my face. You don't get to see it. But what the interesting thing will be to see what comes out of that. There's been some speculation that, well, we could see Avatar with the Avatar 2 movie coming out in, I think, December. There's apparently a teaser for is it Doctor Who, I think? I'm not a big Marvel guy, so that kind of eludes me, but there are things coming, and they are definitely doing things to make it even better. Again, this is a child-centered event for the most part, a family event. Maybe not child, a family-centered event. So keep your expectations at a certain point where you're not going to be disappointed. Level them because it's not to cater to the extreme AFOL. Sometimes there are things there for the AFOL, but most of the time it's there for family stuff. Okay, if you saw it, I think, what is it, last year, the first year they did it, you kind of saw what it looked like. Expect something similar. Although I do think there might be some things that might be a little bit bigger this time around. I still expect things to be the same. I don't know what they're doing as far as when they got feedback from it, from us and stuff like that. We'll wait and see. So that's going to wrap up News on a Tues. I hope you guys are enjoying your lovely day. It's hot as can be here in Texas, and it's about to get hotter. but I'm looking for some interesting weather in Chicago here in the next week. So until we meet again, I'm your minifig host, Matt. Let's build on it.